parties, including her own, including very senior members of her own, and including those colleagues on the benches behind her. Now, I just want to address one question of why these benches have not put forward a straightforward fatal motion, like the ones held by the Liberal Democrats at the behest of their party leader, Tim Farron. Because I think in policy terms, there's little between us on this issue. I do think it's significant the fatal motion was only tabled after the government had threatened retaliation if your Lordship's House voted against the cuts. And that's escalated the constitutional issues. I think let the government off the hook a bit, because they're more willing to talk about constitutional issues than about the impact of these cuts. And I think the really important issue before us today is looking at how we can protect people from what the government has proposed. And my one regret is that it's allowed the focus to be off the issue, but on to constitution. And I do say a further concern I have that the government, having won a vote in the Commons, would quickly return with new primary legislation with very little change, if any, to avoid consideration by your Lordship's House. So our motion, we believe, is the only one that can lead to meaningful change, gives ministers the opportunity to take a step back, to listen properly to the clamour of voices calling for them to think again, and that is the right role for your Lordship's House to take. Those voices are clamouring not just here in Parliament, but it's the Children's Society, think tanks such as the IFS, the IEA, the Adam Smith Institute, as well as newspapers like The Sun that would normally support this government. Now, we've had to think the arguments about whether this oversteps our constitutional authority. It doesn't. I will.
To the noble lady, could you tell us exactly how much Lady Hollis's proposal would cost?
Baroness Hollis is very keen to tell the Liberal.
Yes, my lords, I had hoped that Lord Forsyth, in his courteous way, would have heard the arguments where I said the savings would come from government automatically by the rise in the living wage, of which £750 million each and every year accrues back to the government. Secondly, by the fact that new claimants to tax credits are not covered by our amendment. And third, because the National Audit Office says that by 2019, over 90% of those on tax credits will be on universal credit, where they will have their cuts. So over the term of the Parliament, the government will have matching savings which probably exceed the very cuts the government demands. Well done.
And my lords, I think the point the noble lady makes... My lords, the point the noble lady makes is this is a choice for the government, not a necessity. And I think what we've seen over the last week, and it's enlightened all of us, on the government's reluctance to accept challenge or proper scrutiny. There is no constitutional crisis looming at all. And the Prime Minister, I think, has provoked a rather phony constitutional crisis with this House, rather than deal with the very serious problems with his and the Chancellor's tax credits policy. In the last Labour government, we lost many dozens of votes here in the House of Lords on a range of issues, 42 days detention, on one occasion, entire second reading of a bill, and of course we didn't like it. But we accepted it and moved on. And there is at no point in this session of Parliament that this official opposition does not accept the right of the government to get its legislation through. But it has to do so properly, and it hasn't got a monopoly on getting things right all the time. On this case, we really believe the government has got it wrong. And I